books exploring ADHD and anxiety in kids. I am so lucky to know her and call her my friend, and I'm going to let her take over. So thank you so much.
We're just gonna be very intimate right now. Well, first, thank you. Thank you everybody for being here and joining us tonight. And now I have to admit, I went from there to here with my anxiety now on 100. So there's a reason why I wrote those books. But first, after addressing that big elephant in the room, my anxiety, I want to say to Medalis, when you first asked me if I'd be interested in speaking tonight, there was no hesitation to say yes. See, Medalis and I embarked on a very similar journey with a shared path without even knowing it. When I published my first book, Medalis had hers out. And all through Facebook, we're seeing Medalis' book is shared, my book is shared, but then Medalis made it even more special. And she would share my book alongside hers. And so I shared her book alongside mine. And now you can actually buy them together, as frequently bought together on Amazon. And I mean, how cool is that for our community and for our culture? To be honest, I don't think I'd be here in front of you if not for my anxiety. My anxiety and the willingness of a Latina mother who, though she did not understand all the aspects of mental health or what I could be going through, she was trustworthy enough to allow me to explore that journey for myself. Throughout my life, I always yearned to find others who could relate to me, to my pain, and to my struggle. I was hungry for empathy and compassion, but recently my needs shifted. And I realized I wanted to find others who were victors and representation of our community, shining light on our culture and learning more about who we're becoming. The other day, I was told by someone that they could tell that I was Puerto Rican because of my accent. I've heard this several times in my life and I never thought anything of it, but this time it struck me differently. This is the very accent I worked so hard to get rid of as a child because society stripped back our culture layer by layer. This accent is the one that made me the minority in the room who must be lesser than because she could only speak enough English to get her by. Yet, this beautiful accent speaks the colors of my culture, the spices of a conversation, because immediately we know we're tethered in different beliefs and lifestyles. But it is those same differences that causes others to look away in distaste and assume our culture is defined by some trauma, so we need pity or extra support. The immediate challenge we represent because our culture was never celebrated nor welcomed. That means it's up to us to celebrate ourselves and our culture every chance we get and continue to change the picture with every celebration. This right now is a celebration for our culture, for the women of Latinx. We are 3 Latin women who are breaking generational stigma and stereotype, and it is captured in time for future generations to read about one day. I knew early on I wanted to become a social worker, but I didn't know that social work was an umbrella term. And I still had no idea where I wanted to go with my life. What was I passionate about? One thing about me is that I aim to attract like-minded people. Like-minded in pain or success, it doesn't matter. I never realized that each layer of my culture that was sacrificed was leaving open wounds and a void. Pretty rapidly, this void was overcome with self-doubt and insecurities, which led to severe depression and anxiety. Years of self-harm and self-hate plagued me, preventing me from reaching the best version of myself. To be honest, I was not aware that I was in the process of reaching the best version of myself until this very event. It was through the preparation for this evening that I realized who I've become. I've become the very person I needed when I was younger. I became the woman that I am today because of the resilient influence I've had from the incredible women in my life. I've seen my mother transform a heart-wrenching time in our lives into a theme of beauty and strength. Through her resilience, dedicating her life to caring for her family and others, even when my mom was not met with the same dedication. But she was always teaching me to trust my instincts. Through the lens of my aunt, who I would always try to be like, watching her create the strongest system of support as the matriarch of her home, without a skip in her beat, and being in front row as she embarks this new journey of her own life right now with excitement. And to my sister, who always gave me permission to be confident in my impact, reminding me that it's not supposed to be hard, all the while establishing her own business, Nature's Preserve. And of course, my grandmother, who made the biggest sacrifice of generational suffering, just to make sure we make it to a moment just like this. See, I'm a blend of the most powerful women of my life, and becoming this person meant I became the person I needed the most to get here, and a reflection of the women who helped me get here. This reflection is what my daughter, Evelyn, gets to see. I became the role model I needed to be for my daughter. When I set out to author a book, it was after witnessing my daughter's experience, moments of anxieties with medical providers, after going through a challenging battle with nephrotic syndrome. In that moment, I saw myself in my daughter. The fear, the anxiety, the need to hide. Immediately, it all made sense. So I wrote Ellie the Meditation Elf, teaching about anxiety in dedication to her, so she can begin learning how to find her voice and be her best advocate. See, my intention was the work and not the incentive. I saw the need, and as her mother, I wanted to provide a resolve. However, I wanted a resolve for all kids in diverse ways. So Ellie became part of the self-help elves, and along came Ollie the calming elf, teaching kids about ADHD. Kids have a voice, and it is up to the adults in their lives to provide them with the space to speak. I must admit, I always become intimidated when I'm asked about my writing process because frankly, there was not a process. Complete opposite. These books rolled off my tongue with minimal effort, which of course caused me to second guess whether or not they were good. Pretty quickly, came back to flooding feelings of self-doubt and insecurities, but not enough to stop me. So I published them anyway, typos and all, y'all. And I trusted my initial instincts. And I have no regrets. I stand here proud of my work because my books can fund a portion of the book program that my family has established in UMass Memorial in dedication to our daughter's battle, who, by the way, has celebrated 2 years in remission. Now, I'm not going to just sit here and tell you about all the wonderful things that we can do to find our voices. I'm also going to involve myself in the work that's being done to make it happen. So let's talk about that a little bit. I facilitate a psychoeducation group called Journaling to Heal that aims to slow down the process of finding your voice by breaking away from impulsive reaction and initiating appropriate response. I mean, who here has had an impulsive moment? And I mean, how tied and tethered is that to our culture as it is? Don't get crazy, you know? So even something as simple as road rage could be discussed and defined as impulsivity. The challenge, however, is that impulsive reaction is often rooted in trauma. The driver speeds because of the stress of driving or the fear of being late. Now, what if that speeding driver is cutting off others in traffic in fear of being late and causes an accident? Then what's left behind? More trauma, but this time, for many people. The driver alone won't be able to drive again without being triggered of a car accident. And those that were affected may never look at a drive the same way either. That type of mindfulness and exploring those triggers is what the group focuses on. It's focused on processing current triggers and slowing down our responses to prevent our exposure to trauma as much as is within our control. Being able to slow down, but still honor our culture and say, I'm still very colorful and I'm still very excited, but being able to slow down our impulsive reactions. Through the facilitation of this group and significant trauma therapy, because there's no way in hell I'd be doing this alone, I faced some of the darker parts of my life, recognizing that I muted myself early on by stepping away from my first language and replacing it with and replacing it rather than making room for both. I had to choose, is what I thought, but I was wrong, and thank God. So now, I work to support others on their journey to finding the best versions of themselves by aligning their mind, body, and soul through self-healing. But this work would not have been possible without the powerful women who cleared my path and gave me the tools to lay down each brick on that path. Because of them, my daughter can walk upon those same bricks confidently and forever protected. Today, turn to the little ones in your lives and hear what they have to say. It just might change your life. Talking to my munchkin defined my purpose, and I know that for me this is just the beginning. So to answer the question that I asked earlier, what was I passionate about? I'm passionate about kids being given the space to be heard and express their emotions without the negative stigma of mental health punishing them for it. I'm passionate about supporting kids as they find their voice and recognizing what a safe space looks like for them. I'm passionate about self-healing and guiding the process and supporting others with their journey to inner peace and alignment. But this passion is fueled by my roots, tied to my family, and guided in the faith embedded in me by our culture. So let us continue to celebrate one another. Thank you.
I'm supposed to follow that because that was extraordinarily beautiful. Not just that, something really cool. I actually took the Journaling to Heal class with Stephanie, and when I say that, for me that was life-changing. I switched jobs, I switched careers, I'm following my passions, I'm filling my house, I'm moving. I mean, I'm doing all these great things. And a part of that is because I was able to honestly find some healing through journaling with Stephanie. So whatever method she has going on is working, and I cannot wait for her to bring it to our community because we all need some healing.
Thank you.
So I know I'm your host, and I know this might feel like I'm cheating, but I'm also an author. So I was asked to present today as well, and I will be presenting. This is my daughter Jade, and so Jade, do you want to come sit with me? I know that that's something that you wanted to do. I was very excited to be up here. So I'm gonna sit down too. So, as many of you know, some of you don't, I wrote Warrior Guerreras about 2 years ago, and I published it last year. So I dedicated the book to my mom, who is here with us today, and I'm gonna ask her to stand up, please. Mom, please stand up. This is my mom. She has been at every event, every high and low that I have ever had in my lifetime, and I asked her to stand up because I feel like a lot of women in our community never get the recognition that they deserve, and my mom is one of those people. She has broken her back for me at every step of the way, and she does it till this day. Oh, it's making me emotional, sorry. And I just love her so much, and I think that she deserves the world, and that's part of the reason why I'm here today. So, let me continue before I start crying. So a part of the reason why I wrote Warrior Guerreras was when I was very young, I was in grade school, I rejected the Spanish language. In high school, there was a hallway to the right where, quote unquote, we would call these people gualas, right? And I was the bully. I was the person that was rejecting my culture. I was looking in the mirror, and it was self-hate for me every step of the way. And it wasn't until later on that I realized that that was wrong, and that there was something beautiful in the Spanish language, and that was part of who I was, and that I needed to give back, and I needed to do it in some way that I wasn't sure how to do it yet. So some of the things that happened along the way were that I started my college career when my daughter was really young. She was about 5 months old. And the financial aid department at Holy Community College was looking for a work study. They had a glass encasing with a pink slip for someone to work for them. And I went over, and this 4'11" powerhouse Colombian woman with a thick accent looked me in my face and said, "Do you speak Spanish?" And I hesitated. And I couldn't believe that at that moment I had been indoctrinated to question if I spoke Spanish, the first language that I laughed in, the first language that I cried in, the first language that my mother spoke to me in. I was questioning at that time. And I took a deep breath and I said, "Sí, yo hablo español." And in that moment, I reflected back to everything that had happened prior that made me question that I spoke Spanish. And then I realized that in this new world, that was needed. That was a part of not just me, but when you go into positions in the future, if you're seeking a career, knowing a second language is a plus. You just don't learn that in grade school. That's not something that that anyone tells you, or that is evolved, or it just, you can't grow sometimes, which is unfortunate. So what happened after that is those women at the financial aid office became not just my mentors, but my pillars. And till this day, we go and we have lunches together, and they really have become like other sources for me to pull from and to learn from. And I thank them every day for inviting me in and allowing me to do the best work in English and in Spanish, because that was really special to me and that was needed. Another thing that happened to me along the way was that, you know, I've held many positions. One of the positions that I held in my life was at Holyoke Works. I used to work in adult basic education. So I worked as a teacher, teaching English to adults that had been laid off, and some adults had never sort of even made it past 8th grade. All they knew was factory work. So when they came in, some adults didn't know how to use the computer, you know, some didn't need to speak English because that wasn't needed for their job. That being said, there was a woman, and I don't remember her name, and it's unfortunate, but there was a woman in her late 60s, and she, part of the position was that I needed to teach people basic tech skills. So we would go once a week to a computer lab. And when I first started to evaluate everybody's position with tech, I saw that she ran the mouse off the table. She didn't know where the start button was. She didn't know what Microsoft Word was. She didn't know anything. And so every day I made it a point to give her a little extra attention, right? To be like, all right, let's do this together. And the whole class kind of took over as well. It was a teaching moment for everybody. One day I walked in and a group in the back needed me. So I, you know, went to the back, and I did not give her the attention at the beginning of the class, thinking I'm just gonna come back over and then I'll help her and everything will be fine. I'm coming over, and this woman had turned on her computer and she had wrote her name on Microsoft Word. And when I tell you that every single person in that class stood up and started clapping and cheering for her, it was the most amazing moment in my career, because I found my purpose, and my purpose was to help women. I didn't know what my instrument was yet, but I knew what my purpose was, and my purpose was to help women. And so I went on a journey to find my instrument, and I decided that my instrument was going to be writing, because that was the other thing that I was passionate about since I was really young. And that's why I'm here today. I ended up writing Word Guerreras, and this is a book of affirmations in English and Spanish that, like I said, I dedicated to my mother, but I also dedicate to the community of women that have been lost, that have been forgotten, that are dismissed in any language. Yeah, and that's sort of my backstory. I'm so happy to be here with you all, and I can't wait to really work with the community here at the Hispanic-American Library, and I am so lucky. I am so lucky that you are all here. I feel honored that you guys are all here. And I am so lucky to have Stephanie here and A.L. Garcia here, and I'm going to present the next presenter now. So the next presenter is A.L. Garcia, and she is a Latina poet and a writer based out of Massachusetts. She joined the writing community in August of 2020, and after independently publishing a personal narrative called Broken Things, exposing abuse she endured as a child, she is a veteran of the U.S. Army and a graduate of Towson University. She handles marketing and public relations for Crow and Crow Publishing House. She also has an independent poetry collection, Broken Hearts Mosaics, is featured in all 3 QC's Crow volumes, Raven and Roses, a Gothic Women's Anthology, and Crow Quill and Arrows of Thanatos, an anthology of death and desire. And I think that we have books on the far right that are Stephanie's, and we have A.L. Garcia's on the far left. So after she's done presenting, if anyone is interested in purchasing them, please.
I'm actually donating these.
Oh, yay! That's so exciting. But they'll be here after, and we can talk about how you can purchase their books, and for me as well. So I'll ask that you guys keep your questions until the end. We'll have A.L. Garcia go, and then if there's any questions that you want to ask any of us, we'll all come up here, and you guys will have the opportunity to do that. Okay? Thank you so much. There we go. I'm okay.
Okay, I'm gonna sit like everyone else seems to be comfortable here.
Como dicen, estás en tu casa.
Exacto. Esta es la sala.
Okay, so as Medalis mentioned, thank you so much. I am also I'm a survivor of a lot of abuse as a child. That is why I wrote Broken Things. This is a personal narrative. It's not like a complete detail of my entire life, but it is certain events that happened in a time frame from around like seven years old to 21 when I left my home in New York City. So I grew up in New York City, and I grew up bilingual, and I went to the Army to be a linguist. So I was a linguist in the Army. And then I studied social science. It's not exactly the same as social work, but they're very closely related. And I really liked all of everything you said about your journaling techniques. Part of my obsession with poetry is just the way it lets you say things that you can't normally say sometimes openly in society, right? It makes something very tragic or very hurtful into something beautiful, into something that anyone can digest and see it as art. That is the art form that attracted me the most as a child, and I started writing poetry as a way to sort of let out everything I was feeling that I couldn't tell my parents, that I couldn't tell other people. And it did give me my voice, so that's why it was so important to me. Broken Heart Mosaics is a compilation of my poetry. It's very hyper-personal poetry. The Crow Calls volumes, this is Gothic poetry. I work for Quill and Crow Publishing House. They are a Gothic publishing house based out of Ohio. And I run their social media marketing and public relations. It is a pleasure to work with them. It is honestly just a lot of poets came together and made these volumes first. There's 2 poems in each volume, so it's a collected work. This is not all mine. I have 2 poems in each of these volumes. Ravens and Roses and Arrows and Thanatos, as well as Haunted, which is Quill and Crow's newest anthology that is coming out in April. These are short stories, and so they are also Gothic. If you didn't notice, I am a little bit, that is kind of my wheelhouse. I'm into Gothic horror, and I really feel like it explores certain elements that are darker in nature, and I like to work within that field. Other than that, I was just wanting to talk about poetry, and I did want to read you one from Broken Heart Mosaics that is in Spanish, and it is about a person that was extremely important to me. This person is named Mami Lula, and she was Puerto Rican. So if you probably don't know, but I'm not Puerto Rican. My husband right here and my little babies, my husband is Puerto Rican and my little babies are half Puerto Rican. But I am not. I am Ecuadorian. My mother's Ecuadorian. I can't really talk about my father. And poetry gave me my voice. But this Puerto Rican woman, Mami Lula, she brought me into her home when I was 7 years old. My family got evicted because I accused my father of molesting me. He left and he ran away, and my family got evicted. from our apartment because my mother didn't work, she didn't have money, and so we ended up on the streets, and our grandmother would not take me in because I had accused her son, which was my dad. Anyway, Mami Lula took me in because she knew my mother from church. And it kind of changed my life. It kind of changed my whole perspective on life. You know, there was a long time where I felt like I'm just living, and I kind of didn't feel like a person. I didn't feel like I was doing anything other than just acting out what I had to do in life, you know? And I love you. They're always like this. It's kind of natural for me. I'm sorry, you guys. Anyway, she showed me a little bit of love, right? I was with her for a year and a half. I lived with her for a year and a half. And she showed me like what a family was. Her and her husband, Manoguelo, is what we used to call him, or what I used to call him, what everyone used to call him. And they were just a beautiful little Puerto Rican family, and they were just amazing people. They were, they just took a strange child into their home, and you know, just showed me that that love does exist, and that there is hope for something better out there. And I always felt that the Puerto Rican community sort of has that, you know, like bring you into their arms sort of thing. I also grew up in New York around a lot of Puerto Ricans, and I always felt very accepted and very, you know, embraced by the community. I do want to just thank the Puerto Rican community in general for being just very, very positive throughout my life. And I really appreciate all of you here, and just knowing that there's a strong Puerto Rican community in Springfield. It's always lovely to see. I prefer to be around diversity. It was kind of the way I grew up. And it's hard for me to be in areas where I don't feel that there is diversity, you know. So I'm very grateful for this community here, which I'm completely new to, but I feel the same vibes as I did in New York, and I'm very thankful for that. So I am going to read to you my poem, Mami Lula. For you all, because she is kind of what changed my life and gave me hope to feel that there was something better out there, and it drastically changed who I was as a person. I don't know if I would be the same person if I did not, if I had not met her. Okay. And just to not add shock value to it, Mami Lula did pass away in 2015. And this is a poem about loss. Mi madre luz, mi mami Lula, luz de mi vida, mi madre luna. Tu corazón como un sol le da vida a la luna. En tu jardín crecía el amor, porque en esa jungla se despejaba la amargura. Mi madre luz, mi luz de luna. Los resplandores de la mañana nacieron en tu cuna. Con ese acento borinqueño le sacabas risas a los días de lluvia. Y después con un salmo arrullabas a las brujas. Mi mami luz, mi santa Lula. Si existe luz en mi alma, es por reflejar la tuya. Hace más de 5 años ya, tú regresaste al cielo, y yo quedé parada aquí, en la esquina de mi duelo. No entendí aún que ya era tu tiempo, que otros te esperaban en el reino de los sueños. Siempre digo que soy hija de la luna, porque cuando me encontraste, a esta huérfana la hiciste hija tuya. Mi madre luz, mi santa Lula, luz de mi vida, mi madre luna. Si existe luz en mi alma, es por reflejar la tuya. Te amo, Lula.
That was
Thank you. Here's me a bit. Here's me a bit.
Me too, girl. Me too.
Yeah.
So
She got me
that is
going.
She got a lot of us.
that is what is so important for me to poetry, about poetry. I always found my voice through poetry. I always found my voice through writing. And I found a way to express and just become who I am and see myself as a person and be a person. It takes art to do that sometimes, and that's why it matters to me so much. So anything that you all need from me, if there's anything I can contribute to, I am here. All right, and thank you. It was so nice meeting you all. I am.
So I'm gonna ask now if anybody has any questions. We're just gonna sit on the couch, like our little sala. And if anybody has any questions for any of us, so,
No tengo preguntas, pero sí tengo comentarios. Llegué aquí retirado del servicio militar en el 86. Cuando llegué aquí, vi una comunidad puertorriqueña que estaba apagada totalmente. Y empecé a trabajar como activista en esta comunidad para que la respetaran. A través del desfile puertorriqueño y otras muchas actividades que pude fundar en la ciudad. Hoy podemos ver el fruto de ese trabajo que muchos de nosotros, los viejitos que estamos aquí, trabajamos en ello. Yo soy un cofundador de esta biblioteca con Juan, allá en los tempranos 90. Hoy en día, ustedes me hacen orgulloso, me llenan totalmente de orgullo, porque podemos ver el fruto que nuestra comunidad produce. Hoy en día tenemos un senador puertorriqueño en Boston, que es mi hijo, senador Gómez. Tenemos representantes, tanto como Carlos González y Orlando Ramos, en Boston. En el City Council tenemos 3 hispanas puertorriqueñas trabajando en la ciudad. Hemos crecido de una forma inmensa. Tenemos cuántas personas, mujeres como ustedes, que nos hacen orgullosos de que nosotros somos. Porque ustedes están poniendo el nombre de nuestra hispanidad en alto. Llegamos, peleamos, trabajamos, hoy estamos en alto, hoy se nos respeta. Gracias por su labor, gracias por tu entusiasmo. Que el Señor la siga bendiciendo y llevándola mucho más alto.
Amén.
Gracias.
Tengo una pregunta.
Sí,
¿Me puedes decir un poco más qué es la poesía gótica? ¿Por qué le llamas gótica? ¿Qué es lo gótico en la poesía?
Ok, por ejemplo, el poema que les leí no es gótico. No necesariamente, puede ser, pero no necesariamente. Lo gótico tiene que ver con una clase de horror que se creó, muchas veces se creó con mujeres. Mary Shelley hizo Frankenstein, Jane Eyre, the Bronte Sisters. Ellas son mujeres que en realidad crearon el género. Entonces, hay muchas cosas, por ejemplo, ustedes viven en Massachusetts. Aquí la arquitectura es gótica. Mucha de la arquitectura es gótica. Tú sabes, es un periodo de tiempo de los como 1800 hasta, tú sabes, entre los 1800 hasta los 1900 y algo, que de verdad se creó más arquitectura de ese tipo y cementerios, tú sabes, tener elementos un poco oscuros, criaturas de fantasía, cosas que nos hacen tener miedo como los fantasmas. ese tipo de cosas, y todo eso incluye literatura gótica.
Con el permiso, ¿conoce los trabajos de Pizarnik?
Sorry.
Pizarnik, Alejandra Pizarnik.
Me suena, pero no puedo
No, sí, porque eres muy norteamericana.
No puedo decirte quién es ahora mismo. Pero si me escribe el nombre, la puedo ver.
Midalis, ¿puedes leer un segmento de tu libro?
Oh, of course.
¿Puedo elegir cuál?
Tú lo lees.
No, por favor, sería estupendo si tú lo puedes leer.
Okay.
El número 14.
Ay, me encanta.
Tú puedes elegir el que quieras, pero me encantaría escuchar eso. Esa era mi pregunta para ti.
Sí, absolutely. Everybody, real quick, this is Nidia Marrero. She is an amazing human being, and she is another mentor that has worked with me for a really long time here. Well, we won't say where we work, but for the community. 14, el de arriba.
Sí.
Ok. Guerrera. Ella brilla más al no cargar su drama en los huesos, alma y pensamientos. Don't carry your burdens long enough to be re-traumatized by them. Any more questions? For Stephanie, Gail Garcia? Does anybody have any questions?
Yo tengo otra pregunta para las tres. ¿Qué consejo le pueden dar a alguien que quiere empezar a escribir?
Empieza. Escribe lo primero que te salga en tu mente. Esto es algo que en el proceso del grupo que yo vengo, pues ahí es donde empezamos, porque te da más claridad. I'm going to just say it in English because I thought I would express myself a little bit better. So a lot of the time when we want to get started on writing and not knowing what that journey is supposed to look like, because for me it wasn't about going in with the intention that I knew I was going to write or that I was going to be an author. For me it was more so about what was I trying to do, what was my purpose behind it, and that's how I found that. But one of the things that we do in the group that I'll happily share is what I call word vomit. Let it out. Whatever's on the forefront of your mind, in that moment, don't think about it. Give yourself 5 minutes and just let it out. Because at that point, you're going to purge everything that's going to be your barrier, everything that is your block, everything that's trying to distract you. You purge it, but you wrote it down and you can go back to it so it's safe. So we don't got to get nervous or anxious about this thing that we were supposed to do. Clear your mind, write it down, and then set the intention that you want to write for. And one of the biggest tips is write like if you were writing a love letter to someone. But write it for yourself. However that comes out, may it be through the expression of poetry, stories, painting, whatever. Just, it's a love letter for you, from you.
That's lovely.
Yeah. I'd like to add to that one thing I always remember when writing stories or writing poetry is you can edit a page. You can't edit a blank page. You have to write it down. And a lot of times what prevents us from writing is just fear.
Yes.
There is a lot of fear that what you write will not be good. But that is the central issue with writing and reading in general. You have to practice in order to be good at it. You have to write the first sentence that wasn't good so that you can get to the next one that is better than that, and then even better. All writers struggle with feelings of inadequacy. All writers feel this is not good enough. I know I've been writing stories sometimes and said to myself, oh, this is trash, you know? But I wrote it down because I can come back and I can make that better. If I don't write it down, then I can't make it better.
Absolutely. And just to add to that, the secret is, we are all bad writers when it starts. We can call ourselves authors, but at the beginning, we are all bad writers. It's who perseveres that makes it. Who keeps writing? Who looks for someone to edit your work? Who is able to take criticism and change their work when it needs to change? It's never perfect at the beginning. But if you persevere and you keep going, just like in other facets in life, you will get there. You will make space for yourself. And that's what this is about. You have to make space for yourself. No one else is going to be able to do that ready for you. You have to do it, and you have to keep going.
And remember, wherever faith lives, fear can't visit. You know, so just keep that in mind, that sometimes our fear becomes our resilience, and you know, our response, our immediate response to something with fight or flight. But there's so many other options that a lot of, you know, within our culture we're not fully aware of. Different ways of expression and different ways of being seen and being heard. It's about, like you just said, write it down, and you can always go back. And that was actually for tonight. I was struggling, y'all. I was struggling. I'm a procrastinator through and through, so I had half of that written down and some things, and I'm like, what am I trying to do? And when I realized, I'm like, this is my first moment where I'm allowing myself to be seen. And how much was I ready to share? And how much of that did I want you to see? And how much of that did I want you to know? The biggest thing that people usually can't tell is that I'm Puerto Rican because I look white. So I dove into that. I said, you know what? I am a woman, and I'm going to speak of the women that raised me and my culture and how that influences me so much. And with identifying the purpose, then I didn't worry about the autocorrect. You know, the editor on Microsoft Word fixed it, and if it didn't, pues, se chavo, you know. But overall, it got my intention across. Same thing with my book. I'm sure that there's probably a couple grammars in there. You know what? The kids can point them out and learn their reading too. Double win right there.
I think it comes down to, like, you know, they say dance like no one is watching. Do everything like no one is watching. You know, when you write something. When I was a child, I wrote a lot of poetry, and I burned a lot of it, and I threw a lot of it in the trash. Because if my parents saw it, I could get hurt, you know? And that trauma stays with us. Whether it's, even if it's not exactly that, it could be just feeling like someone's gonna laugh at you, or whatever. You can't write like that. You have to make believe that you're alone. It's just you and the page, and, you know, keep that mentality of, you know, dance like no one is watching, write like no one is watching. And in general, I just feel like that got me through a lot.
Imagine how many missed opportunities there were because you thought someone was watching. You didn't submit that paper. You didn't call that journal entry. You didn't call that publisher because you felt like you weren't good enough. But had you tried, you never know. And that's the thing. You will never know unless you do it. So just do it.
It's a good thing to see you women speak up and have a voice for Latina women. It's very encouraging, and I feel very honored to listen to you. So thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm honored.
A lot of it does come from everybody who came before us, like what you were just speaking to, paved the way. I remember the Puerto Rican Festival, like it's nobody's business. La Parada, looking forward to it and going down there in my jersey dress with the Puerto Rican flags all over it because I had a reason. Yeah, I had a reason to be excited. Like this was where I got to get my, you know, my diverse friends to come over. I'm like, no, you're about to like really see how we turn up. You're about to see how we're gonna have a good time. We can have a good time, and it's not gonna get violent, and it's not all those stereotypical things. I remember somebody dropping me off, and when I lived on Main Street, I grew up on Main Street my whole life. And the minute we got off the Burning Ave exit, she turns to me and she goes, "Am I gonna get shot?" And I'm like, have I? No. But it's moments like that that in the moment, it's an isolated incident. But they compound. And that compounding over time makes you realize, like, oh damn, I've been being judged this whole time. Well, you know what? If I'm gonna get judged either way, let me be the most hot mess version of myself and accept it.
Give them a good show.
Give them a good show, exactly. And while I do that, let me be proud of what I'm doing. Let me get captivated in my culture and really celebrate it, because none of us would be here if not for everyone that came before us and paved that way for us. So your ability to be able to come in and really create that and provide that safety created this moment. So the same way that te hacemos orgullosa a usted, we're grateful to you.
And your authenticity is your superpower. So lean all the way.
All the way.
Yeah, I mean, being a horror writer, I can tell you that you got to go with what you love. You can't do what other people see as perfect or other people see as, oh my God, that's what I want. No, you're not going to excel in what you don't love. You got to go for what you love. You know, in this book, there's a retelling of La Llorona. That's what I did. That is Gothic. So La Llorona is my culture, and it's Gothic. Yeah.
Let's take them to the gala, to the Puerto Rican gala. Ain't no shooting in there.
I got a question. I'm curious about this. What time, this is individual that really you can answer. What time do you find inspiration to write your books? The daytime or night?
No, the night.
Yeah, because I don't think it's an easy task.
Nobody bothering you. The kids are sleeping.
At 3 a.m.
At 3 a.m.
So for me, and my sister's back there, she can relate to this. The shower is everything, and that's actually where I wrote both of my books, was taking a shower and meditating. So as a mom, and I love my husband to death, but we have kids, we have pets, and again, with our culture, we have a two-family house, and my mom lives at the bottom, so when are you by yourself? Nunca. So in the bathroom, there's this pretty little thing called a lock, and that's my time alone. So when I take a shower, I meditate, and that's where I have like all my epiphanies. So both of those books, actually, I wrote them and initiated them in there. But hi, oh my God, God bless you. You'll be up here. You'll be up here. Yeah. Okay. No. But what's really interesting about that is that it also made me the most insecure, because then I felt like I wasn't putting the same amount of work as other people. It took a little bit for me to realize that the reason why is because it's the field that I work in. I'm a licensed social worker. I could speak to it from a different lens. That's why I came so naturally. But for a long time, I felt like an imposter, because I'm like, who do I think I am? But like you said,
Who do you think you are? And then you don't do it, right? And then all the people that could get inspired by you are not inspired. And then, it's just a matter of saying to yourself, who do I think I am? I am somebody, and
giving yourself permission to be somebody.
Yeah.
For me, it's not really a time. For me, it's a season. So for me, for whatever reason, I think it's in my blood. From the jungles of Puerto Rico, where my mom is from, the summer is my time to write. I have made it an effort for every other season to make time to write and to say, no, this is the time that you have to write, because sometimes we're not going to feel like writing, but sometimes we have to, and we have to because that is important to who we are as people. But for me in the summer, for whatever reason, it's the season that just makes me really want to write.
Thank you.
I also have small children, and I just take, every now and then I just take whatever few minutes I can to just jot something down. Sometimes it's called like writing sprints, and I'll do 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'll leave it and I'll come back 5 to 10 minutes again, and you get a lot done like that.
Somebody just told me if I got lipstick on my nose.
It's all good. There you go. Let me double.
Why we're writing a mess?
Oh, beautiful. But go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm taking double.
Give me
So
one.
I'm taking double, definitely. Great out.
Vietnam del estado de Massachusetts, mucho hemos crecido. Y juntamente con el gobernador actual pudimos recolectar 1.5 millones para que este libro se hiciera para los veteranos de Vietnam en el estado de Massachusetts. Yo firmando estos libros con mi firma y quiero hacer una presentación a cada uno de ustedes. Para que no lo escribí yo, ¿ok?
It's really such an honor. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you.
Okay, so there's Samay Gomez. Also, to introduce you to the board of the Hispanic-American Library, let me start out with the president, Yvette Bell. To my right, Annie, the Vice President. The gentleman with the camera, one of the assistants. I forgot probably my boss, sorry, the most important of all. My wife, you can stand up for a minute. So I try to take good direction. Did I miss anybody?
We don't learn if we don't take good direction.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Gallo.
My teachers. Marilyn Gallo. 28 years, served for the Department of Education. Now we do literacy all day from 11 to 3:30 on Saturday. So Saturday is strictly for the kids, literacy, reading comprehension. We do a quiz, and if they have a reading situation, we help them to enhance it. And Dr. Sylvia Hines, who's also one of our teachers. And I think Valerie got a little something, right, Valerie? Please, go ahead. Okay, so let me just take a quick moment and Valerie, okay, here we go. Sí, sí, eso mismito. Okay, so we're gonna,
Let's try and get him in trouble.
and whatever we say, all right, there's a strong woman in support of what we do. All right, so Women's International Month, I definitely appreciate it. It's been an honor. I met Stephanie. I know her husband for many years.
Since I was little.
Since he was little. Right. So I saw the growing stages. And again, and your husband's not here, but your husband happens to be a musician.
Yes, he's a musician. Yeah. He's also a Navy vet.
And I was going to help you to introduce him.
Okay.
But
so Juan, he's out there. Well, Juan actually, he works for Goya, and he's also a salsa musician from Puerto Rico. He comes from Puerto Rico and moved like 30 years.
And when we had our banquet in October for Heritage Month, he was there. You know? We do all sort of things. So, because
yes, absolutely. I mean, it was an honor to see you all, to see familiar faces, to see new faces. I can't wait to get to know you. As Juan said at the beginning, I am the new program coordinator for one of the programs here, so you might see a lot of me, so come visit. I have a lot of energy. I'm trying to bring a lot of life into this place, even though it gives me life, and I think that that's what's really important. You have to be somewhere that nourishes you, and this place has already nourished me. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to work with Yvette Bell. I look up to her. She's an amazing Wonder Woman with superpowers, and I hope one day to be happy with she is. So I'm really excited to see you all. There will be books for sale. Stephanie's books are for sale to the left. Please make sure you walk around. There's refreshments in the back, and also get to know your neighbor. If you don't know them, get to know them, because this life is all about connecting with someone that you don't know. You never know when you will need someone or when they will need you. And thank you so much for being here. On my part, I'm just so honored. Thank you so much.